Yes, thank you. Um, and we're on Daf Nun Daled. Uh, Amud Aleph is pretty simple. Amud Bey is very hard to understand. Not understanding, just not philosophically to understand it. I don't know if philosophically is the right word, but yeah. So we're on the bottom line of Nun Gimel Amud Beis. Amar Rav Yirmiyah Bira, Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yirmiyah Bira said in the name of Rav Yehuda. Now the Gemara is going to go through all these different ways that Chazakah works or doesn't work. Haiman, onto today's daf, Nun Daled Amud Aleph. Haiman, the Shod, the Lifsa Beipili. If you have a person who threw a lifsa as a turnip or a radish or something like that, Beipili, into cracks that are in the ground. Right? The Ara, the Ger of a Ger. That's mostly what we're going to be talking about, is making a chazaka on the ger's property. Talking about a ger who dies without relatives. So everything is up for grabs. So what this guy did is on his way to the levaya, let's say he took a vegetable and threw it into the cracks that are in his field. And then that's all he did, though. He didn't do any work in the field. So lo have a chazaka, that's not a chazaka, my timer. Why is it not a chazaka? Because the shada, when he threw this turnip into the field, lo havi shachar, didn't improve the field. Hashid the koshavach, and now that it did improve the field, memela koshavach, it happened by itself. Meaning, all this guy did was throw this turnip into the field. That's all he did. He didn't do any work in the field itself. So memela, since he didn't do any work in the field, that's not called a chazaka, right? Otherwise, you have like any guy that walks by and spits a sunflower seed into the field. He says, "Oh, I didn't make a chazaka on that field." All right. I'm saying there's a lot of shilas to ask to understand exactly what this case is, because I'm already saying that it's in the cracks. And let's say it wasn't in the cracks in the ground, so then what? All right. Okay, whatever. That's the Rashbam discusses this thing. Fine. Next case, Omar Shmuel. All right. Haiman, the Pashach Dikla. You have a guy who's taking off the trees of a dekel tree. And he says the reason why he was taking off the branches of a dekel tree, and the reason why he was taking off the branches, he says, is to be kind of the tree. So Adaita the Dikla, if he did it on the das of, meaning the reason why he was taking off the branches was sort of to prune it, kani. So then he's kani because he was actually doing work for the date tree. Adaita the Sevasa, but if it's for the animals, meaning his animals needed food, then loy kani is not kani. Right? So it comes out a very interesting thing. You're doing the same work in a tree. If you're doing it for yourself, there's no chazaka. If you're doing it for the tree's sake, then there is a chazaka. Right?
Yaakov. So you could tell me to be quiet, but I have written down, did Kevin Costner build the field to have a ball field, or did he want his father or was Joe Jackson to show up? Why did he build the field for the field or for the tights of his father or Joe Jackson?
That's a real stretch there. Okay, that's good. Dialogue understands what this is in reference to. I didn't understand that whole movie anyway, so I guess I'm about to start on that.
He built it for them to come, because that's the
if you build it, they will come. That's the line.
The movie, he didn't build it for the field. He built it so they came. So
yeah, but it could be that he wanted them to come, but he really wanted the field. No,
I mean, it's not the line.
I don't know.
I think that's Kaisis.
Right, that's true. You think it's Kaisis? Yeah, it's called the pop culture Kaisis. Yeah. Anyways, but it's an interesting thing in Dinei Chazaka, because now you have to make a Chazaka with kavana. Right? You have to have the proper kavana. What's the difference? He cut off the branches of the tree. Who cares what he wanted to cut the branches off? No. If you have to cut it off for the tree's sake, otherwise you have no Chazaka. Okay, how are you supposed to know? Heichi dami. Right? Meaning the Rashbam says, what do you mean Heichi dami? Ask the guy. Well, we can't trust the guy because he's gonna baloney it, right? So if he took from both sides of the tree, adaita the dikla, then he was doing it for the tree's sake, for the date tree's sake, but for the palm tree's sake. Kula mechad gisa, but he only cut off on one side, adaita the chevasa, then it's for the animals. Because what does he care what the tree looks like? Meaning, if you're pruning the tree properly, you want it to look good, and I imagine that pruning works to both sides. Fine. In another case, you have a guy who is sweeping the junk out of the field, right? And then he says, "Oh, you know why I was sweeping this field is because I wanted to make a chazaka." So adaita da'ara, if he did it because he wanted to make sure he clears out the field for the field's sake, kani adaita tzivi. But if he needed the junk that's on the floor, like the wood, then like kani, because all he was doing was gathering wood. So if he dummy, what's the case? Shokal Rabari Vizutri, if he took big ones and small ones, adaita da'ara, then meaning if he took the large pieces of wood and the small pieces of wood, then he's obviously doing it to clear out the land. Shokal Rabari, but if he took the big ones, the Shavak Zutri, and he left the small ones, then adaita tzivi, then he really just needed wood. So he only took the wood that he needs. So therefore it doesn't work. Okay, another case of Shmuel. V'amar Shmuel, Haiman de iskil tikla. If a person who was tickled from the word shakel, and tikla also means that he could trip on it. So you got all sorts of junk in the field, and he's trying to clear it out. All right, so adaita da'ara, if he did it for the field's sake, kani, he's going it. Adaita de beidari, but he did it to make it into a beidari, which is a threshing floor, meaning he needed it to be smooth so he can put his grain down on top of it like honey. Okay, hechi dami, what's the case? Shakal mulya v'shada benotza, if he took the piles of dirt and he put them into the hole, shada means he threw it benotza into the holes, then adaita da'ara, then he's doing it for the land's sake. Mulya, the mulya, if he flattened it out, right? Benotza, and he filled in the holes, then adaita de beidari, then he's doing it for to make a place to thresh. Right? Meaning if he didn't take the dirt, the piles of dirt, and put them in, and he was just, flattening it a little bit, then it's not for the land's sake. Number 4, Farma Shmuel, Hi Man, the Pasach Maya Ba'ara, which we had in, I forgot, I think Maya Cotton, something similar. Let's say he wants to open the water for the land, meaning he wants to let in the water in order to irrigate the field. Right? So adaita, meaning he wants to use it as a chazaka. So adaita da'ara, if he was putting the water in for the field's sake, so kani, he's kainet. Adaita the kavri, but he wants to do it because he wants to catch fish. Because the way they would catch fish is they can let the water into the field, and then the field, the fish dry up on the whatever they stay in the land. And then he lets the water out, but the fish don't go out.
Is that a normal way? Is that a normal way?
If we had it as the Moed Cotton, it seems like, that was a way to catch fish easily. You reroute the stream into your field, and then you only let out the water through holes, and the fish won't fit through the holes. I think that's the way I understand it. So that was one. It was a particular way of catching the fish. So if he's doing this to catch fish, there's no chazaka. What?
This kind of thing is still done in certain parts of the world where they grow rice, so they have problems with bugs and crabs on the rice paddies. So they let in a whole bunch of water with fish that eat the problem animals. Then they let the water out and eat the fish.
Really?
Yep.
I'm not going to ask how you know that piece of information. I don't know what movies you're watching, but yeah. That's interesting.
It was a book on rice growing in Vietnam.
Must have been a long Tisha B'Av that year. Anyways, okay, that's very interesting. So anyway, so if he's putting in the water to let it go out, so then it's a problem. To let it go out to catch fish, then it's a problem. But if he's putting it in to irrigate the field, then it's no problem. That's a heichi dummy. So what's the case? Pasach trey bavi. If he opened up two holes, chad mile v'chad masik, the water goes in one and goes out the other, atai to the kavri, then that must be he's doing it for the fish. Chad bava, but if he only made one hole, atai to the ara, then it's for the ara because he wants the water to stay in the field. Fine. Then the Gemara says a case here, an interesting case. If you have a woman who she ate the fruits from the date tree, the tafshicha, by taking off the branches. Kalesa shnin, and she did this for 13 years. Also, who gavra, the Bach sticks in the word gavra. Also, who gavra, Rafik Tuse Purta, and he came and he dug onto the tree a little bit. So now she claims, what do you mean? This tree's mine. I've been eating from it for 13 years. He comes along and he digs a little bit under it and he says it's his. He makes the chazaka. So also kamed the Levi, Parmila kamed the Marukva, either from Levi or Marukva, Ukme biyade, and they gave it to him. They put the tree into his hand. Right? So Asoi ko savcha kameh. So the lady came and was screaming in front of Levi. How could this be? So Amar Allah, he told her, my avidlach, what should I do for you? You didn't make a chazaka the way people make chazakas. She only took the fruits from one side of the tree. Like we learned on top of the Omer, that's not a chazaka. He says, what should I tell you? It's not a chazaka. So she's out. Which is, again, hard to understand. Because what? Because this poor lady doesn't know how to make a chazaka properly. So therefore she loses out. Right?
Which kind of chazaka are we talking about? We're talking about a Kenyan, no?
Yeah, Hefker field.
So she never made a Kenyan. I mean, it's tough, but Lamaisa she never. It's tough, but Lamaisa she never made a Kenyan.
Yeah, well, we should be nice to her but she didn't. But then she didn't do what she needed to do.
It's mashma from the Gemara that it's not the pshat that she tried to do what she was trying to do, and it could be she was trying to do what she, a real Kenyan. She just didn't realize that that's not. The Gemara says kedemachzi inshi. It's mashma that Lamaisa, because it's not the way it was established. It could be she Kaka had in mind to do a Kenyan. It's just since it's not the normal way of doing a Kenyan, so it doesn't count as a Kenyan. But it is a chiddush to say that somebody that thought they were doing Kenyan, but and the mice they were doing something, it's not considered a Kenyan. That is a chiddush in and of itself.
Right. No, but that chiddush we learned in the first mission in Shnai Moifsin. The Re'iyah is not a Kenyan. Things you need a real Kenyan to make a Kenyan on Hefker.
I understand, but this is much more darkistic than that Kenyan.
Right? Yeah.
But it's also mashma from the Rashbam that had she done it on both sides of the tree, then it would be a chazaka, even if her kavanah wasn't to help the tree, right? Right.
Yeah,
so I don't know how that works because we said on the top of the Amid, it's only a way to tell. Let's say somebody cut both sides of the tree, but says, by the way, I wasn't doing it for the tree's sake. I was doing it for my sake. I just got my kicks out of cutting both sides. You give him, it makes a chazaka or not a chazaka?
Yeah, it makes a chazaka.
So that's a big chiddush. It means it makes a chazaka regardless. Intent is not what it is.
Well, we need an action that shows bias, that shows the ownership of the tree. The Gemara is defining that both sides of the tree shows bias, one side doesn't. So even if it's without...
Yeah, go ahead.
The Gemara is saying, Hagufa, that even though it sounds like when the Gemara sets it up, that the Kavanah makes a difference, Lamaisa, it's not the Kavanah that makes a difference, it's Lamaisa Kenyan, period. The only difference the Kavanah makes is it changes the Maisa. Even if the Maisa, so to speak, would be a similar Maisa, but the Kavanah behind it shows what the Maisa is.
Correct, but the Maisa, the whole thing is Tali and Kavanah. It's
So
totally in
Yaakov,
Kavanah. Based on Kavanah, we made what?
This might be the Gemara, but you'd find 87 different Maisib stories about Rabbi Levi Yitzchak and the Belzer Rebbe that they would give it to the lady. So the Brisker Rav would give it to the lady. You'd find all those stories.
It's true. Listen, but they'd figure out a way. That's what you're saying. They'd figure out a way to get it to her.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. What's difficult to understand is that this gather is built on what the Chachamim said. Meaning the whole thing is built on what was your kavanah, for the tree's sake or for your own sake. Right? You know, you can get into the whole Shalom Bayis thing and Achdus thing. Are you doing this because you love yourself or because you love the other person, right? Like, well, who was it that said, you like fish? Yeah, I love fish. Okay, so why are you eating them? Right? So
I didn't learn the Gemara
totally
that way.
You didn't learn the Gemara that way?
No, I think it sounds like the Gemara is saying that it's based on Kavanah, but as soon as the Gemara says Hey Chidami, the Gemara explains it's a completely different action. We need an action that shows bias. An action that shows something else is not good. But the way the Gemara touched that up was if the das was on the tree, the only reason the Gemara touched it up that way was because if the das is on the tree, the Maisa will be a Maisa on both sides, which shows bias. But any Maisa, whatever the Kavana is, where the action is on both sides, shows ownership. It doesn't matter what the Kavana is.
I hear.
Gershon Rahman guy only has one arm, so he can only cut one side of the tree. So he would never be able to make a chazak on that tree.
Oh, if you as a owner, you'd go take the ladder and go around to the other side and use the same arm to cut that side. He can't take a ladder.
On the other side of the tree is in red china. He goes there, he gets shot.
That's a separate issue.
He could have just dug under the tree like the other guy did in this case. You don't need to only do it that way. There are other ways to do a chazaka. He could have done a little harisha for the actual tree. That's what the other guy did. He was cutting it.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I hear what you're saying, Gershon. It's certainly different than what I said. What I thought Pshat was, but okay. Bottom line, it's just like everything else. You have to meet the requirements in order to make a chazaka, even though it may not seem that it should make much of a difference to us. Okay, weiter. So anyway, so this lady lost it. That's just, she lost it out because she didn't make the proper chazak. Amar Rav, the Rav said, Hatzar tzura b'nichsei ager, kana, if you make a picture on the nechasim of a ger, then you're kind of, and again, a ger died without any yarshim. So as long as the way you make a chazaka is if you color something, you draw a picture. The Rav, how do we know this? The Rav leikani leginasa de Rav ela b'tzurasa. There was a garden next to Rav's yeshiva that a ger owned, and he died. Right? So that's it. And the way Rav was kind of is that he did some arts and crafts on it. Yeah. Fine. So now we start with a well, first we do a little bit more with the ger, and then on Amud Beis we get into what happens to making chazakas from goyim. Right? So Itmar, Soda Hamasuyemes b'mitzareh. Let's say you have a field that has proper boundaries. Now, meaning it's very clearly defined with fences or whatever it is. Once you dig one shovelful, kana kula, you're kind of the whole thing. Meaning all you have to do is do one shovelful, and then that's enough. Now the Shmuel says no, you are not kind of you're not kind of the whole field. You're only kind of that one place. Right? Now, again, so how much do you have to do here? Now, first of all, the Rashbam is somewhere where you're going from Hefker. If it's a Kinyan for sure, as long as you dig part of it, that's enough. Right? So we're talking about just being kind of from Hefker. So I don't know what the gather is. That means you have to, according to Shmuel, you have to dig up every little piece of land. You have to turn over the whole land. I wasn't sure. Right? But anyways, on Talmud Beis. So let's say it doesn't have set boundaries. So then how much do you have to dig? Amar Papa Kida Azul Tyra the Shari Vahada, the way a Tiara the Tyra Vahada, meaning how do you call it? A plow. A plow goes across the field. So you have to make two runs across the field in order to be kind of that way. Yeah, so again, Shmuel, it seems like there's no machlokes when the field goes across, when the field doesn't have boundaries, how much of the field you have to do. You have to go back and forth along the whole field. Right?
Why? There'd be a machlokes here also.
What?
This would be a machlokes also. Shmuel would hold in this case, you have to do every inch of it. Of course there would be. Shmuel would hold you need to do every inch of it like he held in the first case. And Rav would hold you have to do 2 suras.
Yeah, so you mean you're saying Shmuel, if he holds in the boundary field, you have to do the whole thing.
Kol shekain.
But right, but I don't know, is that the way to learn Shmuel?
I mean the Rashbam I think says that, but I mean the Chayra, why should not having a boundary be any better for according to Shmuel?
What do we say in Bava Kama with this? Huh? That was something else. That was being kind of one karka for a bunch of other karkas. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I wasn't sure, but l'chayra, what you're saying is correct, Akiva. But I don't know. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that Vaserish.
Right. I think the Rashbam speaks Vaserish, but I agree. Could be there are people who are chelking him.
I didn't see where the Rashbam talks about it.
It's first Rashbam in the top.
Over there, that top Rashbam, I was looking about the other one. That's Maskum. Then he himself says there's okay, weiter. Now we start with a very difficult Gemara to understand. I mean, easy to understand again, not it's hard to understand in philosophical. The belongings of a guy is like a midbar, like a desert. And whoever's zeich in it gets it and finished. Right? What does this mean? My time. What's the reason? When you pay for a field from a guy, right when he gets the money, he's out. Right? He got his money, he's out. Now what's with the field? Yisrael loikoni at the mati shtara liyadeh. The Yisrael is not kaina until the shtar gets to his hand. I mean, there's certain ways you could do kinyanim from a guy. Right? With a guy, meaning even with a yid just giving money is not a kinyan. You have to do hakba, you have to do mashicha, you can do chalipin, whatever it is that you want to do, but you can't just kesef is. I mean, kesef is a kinyan, but you have to make an additional kinyan. Right? But with a guy, it doesn't work like that. Right? Meaning, with a guy, you gave him the money, so now the money became his. How are you getting the karka from him? See, so that's what Gemara is saying. My time. When the money goes to him, he gets the money, it's out. Yisrael loikoni adamati shtarliya. Let me just say earlier. Yisrael loikoni adamati shtarliya. Yisrael is not koined till the star gets into his hand. Hilkach harehin kimidvar. Therefore, it's like a midvar. The chola machzik behen zocha behen, and whoever's zoicha in the field can be zoicha in it. So basically, what happens is I go and buy a field from a guy. I give the guy money. I have not yet taken the star or dug the field or whatever it is. Another Jew can swoop right in, make a kinyan on the field, and he's kind it.
And he has to pay you the money?
What happened to Chil
Only in
Hashem?
Eretz Yisrael. Yeah, I mean that's not going to work in the Chutz La'aretz.
What happened to Chil Hashem here? How does Bezdin,
What's the Chil Hashem?
how does Chacham allow this?
That's he's talking practical halacha.
I'm not talking. What do you mean?
Yes, the guy's not getting the Tzaddik of the Year award. Sure,
I
right?
understand, but we have times that the Rabbanan are Eiker, the Kiddushin, we have Bezdin, Hefka. They could do the Chacham have a right to do something here. They let blatant Chil Hashem happen there.
Why is it Chil Hashem?
What?
Because the guy's walking into the deal. The guy sees everything that's going on now. The guy sees that this Jew could mess up the other guy and just walk in.
This is an Eretz Yisrael when we are in charge of Eretz Yisrael. It's not
What's the difference? It's a guy anyway.
It wouldn't work in Chutz La'aretz.
I'm talking about even in Yisrael. Chil Hashem. What's the difference?
How are you allowed to? How did the guy get the land? How are you allowed to sell that land in Eretz Yisrael to a guy?
I don't know. How did the guy get to that?
I don't know. That's what I want to ask.
No, you just have to make sure that you do that kinyan immediately after you give him the money.
There's blatant Chil Hashem here. How is Bezdin how is Chacham allowing this to happen?
They're not letting it happen.
Of course they're letting it happen. He's not winning the Tzaddik of the Year award, but you could just go right from under the deal. I mean, I found out a deal.
How did the store in town charge Yaakov $17 for a cup of ice cream?
Right.
If a guy saw it, I'm not sure. So right.
He did it in front of
Guy seeing something is not a Chil
Hashem.
What do we start a Chil Hashem? The guy just walked in and threw him off.
Zev. In order for something to be a Chil Hashem, there has to be something halakhically wrong with the action that he's doing. There is nothing halakhically wrong with what he's doing. It's not a nice thing to do, but there's nothing wrong with it. He didn't do any Esser. He didn't do anything against Allah. Nothing. That can't be a Chil Hashem. Secondly, all the tools that Bezdin have, that Chazal have, are to remove, not to give. Chazal don't have any tools to give someone a piece of karka. Even if they remove it from the guy who really owned it now, the new guy who did the kinyan, it's still hefker. They'll do another kinyan. They can't give it to someone. They never have the tools to do that.
Does he have to pay for it?
Also, technically, I would think not.
It's a machlekes in the Rashbam brings down the Shiloh whether the money has to be returned by the guy or not.
Which is the problem. This guy's playing such loud music, I can hardly hear anything. Yeah, hello? I'm saying you can say philosophy, whatever you want. The bottom line is this guy has a legal loophole in order to grab whatever it is that he wants.
But Yaakov, why is it considered that he does siluk on it? Shouldn't when he receives the money, from his perspective, he's being makna to you. Why are we consider that a siluk? That it's almost like he's mafkir, he's putting it in no man's land, and then anyone could go out and take it. Why don't we just say he's not being maknit until you're kinit? That's how normal kinyanim work.
Why is it a two-step
process?
process?
I don't know if it's from a guy.
Why is it a two-step process?
Also, I don't know how much we care about the
No, then you didn't do a kinyan.
The guy only kinyan is kinyan kesef.
I understand. So you didn't do a kinyan kesef if he wasn't kinyan. It's not a three-step process, kinyanim. When I am kinyan, when I do one thing, it simultaneously happens that you're kinyan. If that doesn't happen, we don't create a shiluk here.
Right.
It doesn't go into limbo. That's what the Gemara is saying here. It goes into limbo.
I mean, why by a guy is it a two-step process, and by Yid it's a one-step process?
No, fakir. It's the opposite. By the guy, if it's a guy buying from a guy, that's the harder part of this. That's also a hard part of this. If it's a guy buying from a guy, the kinyan works immediately. The kinyan kesef works for the guy, for the seller, and for the buyer. It's only when it's a yid buying from a guy it needs to be two steps.
Why? So I'm asking why when it's a yid buying from a guy, it's a two-step process, and when a yid buys from a yid, it's a one-step process.
No, or why is it when a guy from a guy is a one-step process?
Right.
Because that's the way the Torah establishes kinyanim for a guy. That's pasha.
Why does
kinyanim from goyim are different than kinyanim from yidden?
No.
That's just the way it is.
Kinyanim with kesef. That's the side. And so goyim with goyim is just one step.
Correct.
So that's the way kinyanim work with goyim. That's not a shiloh. It's time that the din deraisa, but that's the way it works.
Right, and a yid kinyan kesef straight up does not work from a yid,
Because
and it doesn't work from a guy either.
Right.
Yeah.
So it for sure doesn't work by a guy. So we're saying that when that happens, we create these two steps. But why? That's not how kinyanim work ever.
Well, that's until we did this Gemara.
I understand,
that's
but
the
like
chiddush
the guy,
of this Gemara.
The guy, he's being magnet to you. He's not being magnet to Hefker. That's what doesn't make sense.
Kesef works. Kesef works for a guy. So right when the guy took the kesef, that's it. He gave up the field. Who's buying that field at the same time?
With Yaakov, kinyanim work with Das Acheres. Das Acheres means he's being magnet to somebody else, not the Hefker. I've never heard of somebody being magnet something to Hefker in a kinyan.
Yeah, but that's
not how
that's true. That's true.
Hefker,
the guy's
side.
You're 100% right. The guy was magnet to the yid, so he's out of it. That kinyan work. It is because the yid has to be kindness.
That's
part of Jewish law.
Those are just words. That makes no sense.
Okay.
If he's being magnet to the yid, it can't be built. It can't go into Hefker then. I'm being
Gershon,
magnet to one person, not Hefker.
You're saying
it just doesn't make sense.
Even by a yid to a yid, the fact that the das makna does not make a kinyan.
I understand. When you make the kinyan, you make the kinyan. But it doesn't go into Hefker at any point.
Because
we have to get Kiddush Levana in. So.
Because by a yid you need a two-step process, the kinyan's not over until the second step. The problem is that when you have a difference between a guy and a yid, the guy has a one-step process, and the yid has a two-step process.
Why?
Until the end of the second. But as far as the guy is over, it's done.
Yeah. Okay, we got to go a little weiter, but whatever. It's hard to understand. Kinyanim is very difficult. It's very difficult. But anyways, let's see the Gemara again one more time. So again, second line down. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Nifsei avi kasavim harei hein kimidva kimid. Yeah, nifsei avi kasavim harei hein kimidva. The nechasim avi kasavim is like a midbar. Whoever could be machzik in it is zeich in it. My timer. Oh no. Right. I'm not doing fireworks. In my time, right? When the money goes to his hand, so then it gets removed from him. Yisrael loikani ad demati shtar l'yada. Yisrael is not kinda until the shtar gets to his hand. Hilka harei k'midvar. It's like a midvar. Whoever's machzik behen is zoifer. So now, I guess the eitzah would be is to when you do a kinyan from a guy is to do the kinyan while you're standing in the field, and the second you give him the money, dig the ground. I guess. So the Gemara asks, "Amar le'abayler of Yosef, mi Amar Shmuel? Achi, did Shmuel really say that this goes down like that? For Amar Shmuel, dina de machusa dina, the dina de machusa dina." Right. So meaning it doesn't. It's very nice that according to Yiddish law, this is the way it goes. But Lamaisa, the Goyim don't work like that. For the Goyim, it is a kinyan. Umalka Omar, and the king says, Loy likni ara ela be'izgrasa. You cannot be koina a land unless you have a letter, right? So Mamela, how do you say that meaning Dina the Machusa Dina tells you that the kinyan doesn't work. So how can we paskin against the din of the Malchusa? Right? Now we know that the rule is that the Machusa Dina is that when it's the Torah against the din of Machusa Dina, the Torah works. The Torah is the one that wins. Right? So, but it's not against the Torah. This is just, it's very nice that it works according to the Torah, but it still works. The kinyan doesn't work according to the guy. The guy can't come and take it. So Malay said back to him, no, lo yadaina. He said, I don't know what you're saying about Dina de Machusa Dina. Right? But Uvda Hava, but the Dula de Rav Vasa, there was a story in the Dura, means the city of the Ravasa of what do you call it? Roya, the shepherds. The Yisrael, the Zavan Anam, you have a Yisrael who bought land from a guy. Also Yisrael Achrina, Rafik Baporta. When this guy was standing in the court, when he saw him give the guy money, right? This kid went and ran to the land and dug a hole in it. Also committed Rabbi Yehuda, and it came in front of Rabbi Yehuda, Ukma biyada the sheni, and Rabbi Yehuda Pascha that it goes into the second guy's hand. So you see, he says, I don't know what you're talking about with Shmuel, with Dina Malchus Dina, but this is the way Shmuel Pascha. So Marley, so he said back to him, Dura de Ravasa, Kamran, you talking about Dura de Ravasa? Hasam, Bagi Mitamri Hava. There, the fields were hidden. Because the guy selling that land didn't pay taxes to the king. And whoever doesn't pay taxes, you should just go take his land. Right? So Mamela, the first guy who was selling, who cheated on the taxes or didn't pay the taxes, he wasn't even allowed to sell it at all to the Yid. So who's the one that came in and took it? The second Yid. And the reason why he was able to do it is because the land was Hefker, because that's what the king already said. The king said that if anybody who wants could take this field because the taxes weren't paid. Right? So Memela, we don't have a proof that it's Dina de Malchusa Dina or not. Yeah. Okay. We'll stop over there. I hope it was understandable in some way, shape, or form. Yeah.